Ghostbusters Afterlife. Long build up to this. This is a movie. I'm going to start by saying this, and I don't know if this is going to set the tone. I have no idea what you're going to make of this movie, Dom, and I'm excited for that. But this movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's really tailor-made, I think, for the crowd who makes YouTube compilations with titles like Things You Missed in the New Ghostbusters Movie and all these Easter eggs. This movie is one giant Easter egg hunt. And I'm not going to say it's not entertaining. I'm not going to say it's not fun in some aspects, but it is nothing to write home about. I'll say that. It's nothing to write home about. I don't think it plunges to the juvenile depths of Jumanji, but there is not a lot of this movie that I feel like was very good or very well developed, given the time that was spent in conceptualizing a third installment to the Ghostbusters, because that's what this movie ultimately is. I don't know if we want to think of it as Ghostbusters 3, but it is a sequel. It is billed a sequel to Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I do not find a lot of this to write home about, and I think where this movie really gets things wrong is in the details. And I'll table that for later on in the review. What say you?
I think I can say that this is Ghostbusters 3. I know literally it's not, but like it can be considered a Ghostbusters 3 just because it pulls enough of those plot threads close enough. This movie did the right move for what it was going for, which I think it accomplished for what it was going for. I think it was fantastically accomplished. The end result as a movie, we'll get into that, I think, a bit too. And let me say, I think I liked it more than you did, but let me ask you this. What's your connection to Ghostbusters 1 and 2? What are your thoughts on them? Like, do you love those movies? Did you like watch a lot of them growing up or no?
I didn't see Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, until I want to say I was about 13. So okay. I didn't grow up with it. My parents both are not very what you would call movie buffs. Sure, I kind of stumbled into this whole thing on my own. I've seen Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, I think 3 times. Once in the theater. I did see it on the 25th anniversary. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. But I like the original quite a bit. And I like the story behind the original, like, you know, how it got made and really how it was billed more as toward like an adult skewing comedy. And it kind of picked up like kid audiences around the way. I've only seen Ghostbusters 2 once, and I like a lot of elements of it, but I almost have to rewatch it before I've never reviewed it. I've never reviewed Ghostbusters 2. I just haven't seen it within the last, I want to say 9 years. So my memory's foggy on it to begin with. I've never been a gatekeeper of this franchise, though. This is not my Clerks, as I would say. This is not some people's Star Wars, as you would say. No, I've really liked the original Ghostbusters. And I really love, you know, the characters in it. I love the dynamic between the 4 leads, but it was never something that I thought was a pillar of, and I know I'm going against the culture over here, a pillar of 80s culture. It was never that to me. What about you?
I think I have seen less than you of 1 and 2. So I think I've seen 1 a couple times. Possibly I haven't even seen it on its entirety. It's, again, like many, if you follow this Sleepless with Steve program, you notice I remember watching these movies too, like having watched them, but sometimes it's part and parcel. A lot of it might be on HBO or Showtime. This was like mid-2000s where I'm growing up and I'm like kind of watching these as they come in and out with commercials and stuff, maybe TBS with the same 3 commercials that they cycle in and out at all times. And I think I don't think I've actually seen Ghostbusters 2 straight up. I know there was a cartoon, but that didn't look appealing.
Now the cartoon was fun. I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen all of it. I've seen maybe like,
okay, fair enough. I can't
10,
judge.
15 episodes. The cartoon was pretty fun.
Okay.
Was not high art, but it was fun Saturday morning animation.
And apparently there was a video game that actually did have Harold Ramis before he passed away. And
Yes.
apparently Ghostbusters fans are like, this is our 3. Like, this video game is our 3.
And again, I just talked about the movies. I did play the Ghostbusters game on
Did.
Xbox.
Okay.
I did. And you know what the cool part about that game was? Dan Aykroyd even said that game, first off, the game was really fun. It got very hard at some parts, but it was very fun. I don't think I ever beat it. But the thing with Ghostbusters, the video game, the Xbox game, was that Aykroyd came out and said that game took a lot of the scenes, not only from the original movie, they rehashed a few scenes from the movie,
Sure.
but it took a lot out of the undeveloped original Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent screenplay.
That's awesome.
And that was fun because there was a lot of that game that was like hellish, for lack of a better term,
right.
like Satan-esque, like doomy.
I mean, that's right up the alley. Yeah.
Sort of thing. It was a very fun game with a really good art style.
Okay, so with all of that, so I never actually played that, which is funny because I'm the video game guy. Maybe Joe would have played it. I'm curious, but
I'd love to know Joe's thoughts because I don't think I ever beat that game, but that game was fun. The levels I did play.
So let me say this: I think I'm even less of a Ghostbusters fan, or even have consumed less Ghostbusters content than you have, Steve.
Fair,
but I wound up loving this movie. And I think that's because I haven't had that much exposure to it. I'm kind of living these Ghostbusters moments for the first time through this movie, as opposed to really sitting down and really appreciating the original, which I think I just need to go back and watch the original. But something about this movie, there are some things that I got, like, okay, I get that even if I don't remember much of the original, I do know, like, okay, I know that is like I know it's a fan servicey thing. I know that the sound effects are the same sound effects as before, which, look, those proton pack sound effects are unbeatable. That's like iconic. That's like Star Wars level sound effects. I know, like, the big reveal of the Ecto-1, the car and stuff. It's like, okay, cool. They turn on the sirens and whatever. But really, a lot of the discovery of the characters here who are rediscovering the fun of being a Ghostbuster, like Finn and McKenna Grace. I am also I'm with them pretty much, and I'm not even rediscovering it. I am discovering it for the first time with them. So in that sense, I think I actually wound up enjoying this more than you in a funny way. And I was because I was having a thrill. I think I was able to hand wave a lot of the rushed detail and character development that kind of had with this. I think can we agree that the number one developed character here was probably McKenna Grace's Phoebe Spangler?
Agreed. Yeah.
I think that's even. I don't even know if there can be any argument there, but she was having so much fun, despite being emotionally stunted because of, I think, a condition that she had. She never directly said it, but she kind of hinted strongly at it. Despite that, she was having so much fun, and she had so much charisma and so much pull and chemistry with Podcast. Oh my gosh, I forget that character's name. Goodness.
Yeah, there's a character named Podcast. There's the level of quality and detail in this movie too. Go on.
Yeah. Oh my God, can I not find the character name here? It's because they put the 3. Oh my God.
You're talking Finn Wolfhard's character?
No. Logan Kim.
Oh, Logan Kim, yeah.
Yeah,
who plays Podcast.
Exactly. Those two, I was having so much fun with, to the point where I'm like, damn, do we even need Finn Wolfhard in this movie? Do we even need that character in this movie? Probably we did if I look at the script. But honestly, it's just like, I was really on that. And I was living those Ghostbuster moments for the first time, pretty much at the same time this character was. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, look, Carrie Coon, she's an awesome actor. I remember watching The Leftovers pretty much all the way through, and she's fantastic. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. You really can't go wrong with him unless you have a really weak script or you're really leaning on just, hey, comedian being comedian, which is the problem with 2016's Ghostbusters. I come to find out. But yeah, dude, even if it's retreading the old ground of the original, for me, I think I was just having fun with it. And I think I don't know, I'm really curious to see what a true Ghostbusters stan would think of this, because for me, it was...
You're not going to get it from me. You're not going to get it from me. I know.
But for me, I was being pretty cool with it. Now, Steve, I know that I don't know if it was like culture fatigue or like nerdism fatigue and like internet fatigue from everything, but you were a little down on it. Do you want to go into more detail on that?
I mean, there's, and you know what? And like I said, I'll say this too. Some people have said that I've been harsh on this movie in some ways, and I swear that it's not coming from a place of Ghostbuster gatekeeping.
Right.
It's really not. It's really not. Okay?
I might even agree with you when you start getting into details here.
I mean, first off, I'm going to say this right now. People can back off and backpedal a little bit on Paul Rudd's presence in a movie, him being worthy of praise to begin with. Okay. First and foremost, he was almost useless in this movie.
Yeah, kind of.
He was almost useless. And like, and I'm starting to get to the point now, like where he's like Keanu Reeves, where the guy just shows up and looks handsome and looks made up, and all of a sudden people are worthy to praise his existence.
I would argue that.
I'm not saying you.
I can see how you say that, how they're in the same spectrum, but I think Paul Rudd has more going for him than Keanu. I'll say that. I'll say that. I think he can legitimately be. Well, I'm
not saying neither are bad actors. I'm not saying either of them are bad actors.
But they're
I'm
kind
not
of
saying
one
I do
note.
not like either of them, but they're very one note.
Sure.
And Paul Rudd in this movie, his only trait in this movie is apparently the only person who knows what happened in Manhattan 35 years ago.
Yeah,
the guy doesn't have not a telling character trait. Never mind the fact that Paul Rudd's presence completely obscures the fact. Here's the one thing I couldn't get past in this movie from the jump. Why does Phoebe have to go to summer school when she's goddamn brilliant? Why does she have to go to summer school? She is like the archetype of a precocious child who's brilliant. Why is she in summer school taught by Mr. Gruberson, Paul Rudd's character, for the first place?
I can explain this. I think
that's number one.
I think she's the kind of girl who, no, I take it back. I was going to say she's the kind of girl or kind of person who loves school so much, but then she straight up says, yeah, whatever, the public education system, because she's better than that. So you know what, never mind. I defeated my own argument.
Why would she go to a summer school class where all they do is show child's play? It doesn't make any sense.
No, they showed Cujo.
You know, and Cujo. Do you think a kid of that stature and that like cognizance would entertain a summer school like that? Moreover, Paul Rudd is a non-factor in this movie. He's a useless character. I mean, the other scene I didn't care for either, like that I just thought was a little absurd, was that when he's in the Walmart and the Stay Puft marshmallows come alive, there is nobody in this Walmart. It is worse than COVID population of a Walmart. Like, there is nobody in this Walmart. There's no other people.
They don't have in a small hick Midwestern town like that a group of kids, at least 7, hanging out in the parking lot at 11:47 at night.
Thank you. And then like even First off, like the point I'm making too, before I even go into what I was going to say, the point I'm making is that this is a movie that gets the details really wrong. That does not feel like it refined a lot of these scenes and these details particularly well. And it gets these moments that if you just pull back a little bit and think about it, like a lot of this, I'll be honest with you, didn't really register to me until I was kind of mulling over and note-taking my review before writing the review, like writing an outline, just thinking about and replaying certain scenes in my head. So you got those 2 scenes that I don't think are very good. And then you have, I mean, I like the fact, what I really like here is, and I know this seems like faint praise, but I really like the color palette of this movie.
No,
Eric Steelberg's a cinematographer.
That's very legit. Yeah.
Eric Steelberg's a cinematographer. Eric Steelberg has worked on a boatload of Jason Reitman movies, and it kind of like irks me. Jason Reitman, the director, also the son of Ivan Reitman, the director of the original Ghostbusters. It kind of irks me that this is like the first movie I feel like Jason Reitman is getting like mainstream recognition for since Juno. He directed Juno. He directed Up in the Air with George Clooney, Men, Women, and Children with Adam Sandler. Tully, I think he directed Tully too, the Charlize Theron movie. I think that was his last movie. I like Jason.
Wait,
Reitman
I'm sorry. Up in the Air, isn't that the one where it's like a big corporate airline shitting all over all its employees? Yeah, dude. That was
yes, and Clooney is the downsizer, the corporate downsizer of that movie. Yeah, I like that movie a lot. Up in the Air, that's a tremendous film. But Eric Steelberg, the cinematographer, I really like how they move this movie from like the city, the metropolitan, to like a very small town
Yeah.
USA. It's got a dusty desert color palette to it, which I think is attractive in a lot of ways too. I think it does a good job of getting us away from the metropolitan sheen of the original two movies and getting us into a totally different setting and kind of restabilizing things. Having said that, though, it's the most cliche town I've ever like one of the most cliche towns I've seen in a movie, where it's like, this is what corporate studio heads think a small town is in America. Like, you got car hops that are straight out of American Graffiti. You got one Walmart, which apparently nobody goes to on a weekend evening. You know, it's the little things of this movie that bothered me. On top of the fact that a lot of this movie, it suffers from like the Force Awakens syndrome, where it spends so much time rehashing a lot of the first movie that it forgets to tell its own story. And it forgets to give us characters that we grab onto. And I think a lot of the people that are very high on this movie, at least certainly higher than I am, they're caught up in the fact that they saw the original Ghostbusters, including Harold Ramis, back together again. The gang is all back together. They're so caught up with that fact that they forget the fact that, you know, that final climax with the original Ghostbusters was nothing more than another kind of slam bang scene with a disinterested Bill Murray who looked like he had to be convinced 16 times over to be in this thing, because he was convinced 16 times over to be in this thing. That's the irksome part of this movie, is it felt like they were so busy paying homage, they forgot to really pave any sort of path of this movie, any sort of foundation that makes you interested in what this thing has to build.
No, they totally set it up for sequels. They left the road open well.
They did, and I'm not ruling out the sequels to be good either.
But yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree with you on that. If I were to watch it a second time, I'm pretty sure I'd start seeing that too. I do think well. Because I'm thinking now, like, who are some characters that I think you could cut out? Probably Paul Rudd, probably Finn Wolfhard. And
Podcast annoyed me. I'm sorry.
I can take.
He irked me.
No, I disagree. I think I kind of liked him. I think
he irked me. He's named Podcast for Christ. Like, that's another thing of this movie too. Like,
okay, question.
I don't know. He irritated me.
What's your thoughts on Short Round from Temple of Doom?
Short Round from Temple of Doom. It's been quite a while since.
Did you find him annoying, or was he the coolest character ever? Because I feel like there's a hard like between the two. There's nothing in between. I'm sorry. That's what I should say.
You know, it's been a while since I've seen Temple of the Doom. Going back to it, I don't remember outright disliking him. I'll say that. I don't remember outright disliking him.
Because this podcast,
his name also wasn't for that era. For that era, he also wasn't named Mixtape either.
Podcast is objectively better than Short Round. There's no arguing this. Because
I'll have to write that down and revisit it.
He's got more. Well, because Short Round is literally just like shouting Dr. Jones in a broken English accent for like the entirety of the movie, and he's just shouting the whole time. Kind of like how the female love interest was for Dr. Jones in Temple of Doom was too.
Okay, now that you do say that, I do remember Short Round being kind of useless.
Okay, we're getting very, very detail oriented here, but that's kind of where the devil is. But also, I'll even say this. The reason why I think Podcast is cool is because he helps in kind of really capturing this 80s kind of story, which is kind of to its detriment too, because it's rehashing things in a very Force Awakens way. I can definitely see that. But for me, who was kind of having more fun with that, I should say I really enjoyed how, it was capturing the 80s, not full on like hyper matching the cinematography where, hey, this looks like a VHS. No. It's just capturing more of that sense of how the, you've got like a single parent with family issues. You've got these kids without a father. You've got the plucky Asian best friend. You've got the teenager who's got a love interest and pursues that, which I'll even say that plot point was kind of useless in and of itself. You could have
Yeah.
removed that altogether and really hone in on McKenna Grace's Phoebe and the relationship with Carrie Coon and Egon. Just that core three of the lineage, of the direct lineage. Because I know Finn Wolfhard is technically part of that lineage by extension, but really the movie was saying, hey, this is your new Egon Spengler, which in many cases can be a bad thing. I think I'll say this appreciatively, that in any other movie where a movie is so desperately saying, this is your new character for this, right? This is your new Egon Spengler. This is your new Indiana Jones for Shia LaBeouf for whatever. This is your new, and so on and so forth. This movie, I think, handled it quite effectively in that, hey, we actually had this character freaking earn it. Like she went through a lot of trials and tribulations. She's smart and she can like figure it out. And she makes similar mistakes. And Steve, as you were saying, even though it retreads some of that same ground too much, yeah, there's definitely some trepidation in having kind of a bit of a bloat. It's not too bloated where it in terms of the characters, but there's some fat, I think, to have been trimmed here. But you keep podcast because I think that guy was cool.